Confession time. Um, so nowadays, my tastes and spirits are a little bit eclectic, but my first love was actually Scotch whiskey. It's true. So a decade and a half ago, I used to spend entirely too much of my time learning distilleries. I would go to Delilah's and just taste as many of them as I could, as many as I could afford. I would memorize everything I saw on Malt Maniacs, Whiskey Fun. I would learn where these things were, what they made, and who owned them. And that's all kind of like just been stuck up here in this in the sponge. The thing is, what's a little bit disorienting sometimes is that ownership changes. Ownership changes, and sometimes it's very loud. Glenallachie was a very, very loud ownership change. But sometimes they're very, very quiet, and you're just kind of like browsing around one day, and you notice, wait, they sold that? And this seems to be especially true of distilleries, which you just kind of like assumed would always be just kind of backbenchers making malt filtering directly into some, big conglomerates blend portfolio. But not anymore, not these three. So these are ones that have quietly changed over the years. We've got three T's, actually. We've got Tullibardine, we've got Tormore, and we've got Glenturret. And we're going to taste these, which, again, used to be owned by kind of big, huge blenders and are now owned by not like small groups or anything like that. None of these are... Scotch whiskey distilleries are huge. They're gigantic. Even the small ones are huge. So the current owners are not like small scale or anything, but they're certainly smaller scale than they were. Anyways, we're going to taste through these things and see what's what. Okay. Last one. All right. So first up, Tullibardine. Tullibardine it's a Southern Highlands distillery, and it used to be part of the White and Mackay Empire up until like the mid '90s when they decided it was surplus to demand and mothballed it, and then it was bought by a big, I don't know, private equity group who did nothing with it for a decade, and then it was bought by around 2013 was bought by, are you ready? Famille Picard. That's right. The current owners of Tullibardine Distillery is the future family of Star Trek: The Next Generation captain of the Enterprise D, Jean-Luc Picard. Now, the Picard family is mainly based in Burgundy, which makes sense based on what we saw in Family. Low-key the best episode of TNG ever. People always talk about Best of Both Worlds. Best of Both Worlds is a prelude to Family. That's how good Family is as an episode. Anyways, so they're mainly Burgundy-based, but they now own Tullibardine. Know what else they own? Savannah Distillery in Reunion. Yes, that's Savannah. So yeah, these are low-key serious people. All right, and so now they put out a new range of Tullibardine official bottlings. It's a little bit of a mess, but if you sift through, there are a couple of bottlings offered at 43%, and I grabbed one of them. This is the 500 sherry cask finish, no age statement. The 500 is basically how big the casks were, so sherry butts. And yeah, bottled circa 2022 or so. I picked this up on closeout. For not much. This was like 20, 25 bucks. So let's see what we got. I mean, it's very like sherried malt. I don't want to say sherried Speyside. It's not that far from Glengoyne, right? But it's not very It's somewhere between like sherried Speyside and Glengoyne, if that makes sense. Applesauce, pear slices, English breakfast tea. Don't be scared, but there's a little bit of like some cardboard boxes in here. It's not like this is like musty cardboard boxes that have been up in your attic for a little while. So it's like must plus cardboard, but it's not bad. It's just kind of there. Black pepper. A little bit of dried fruit from the sherry casks, a little bit of prune, a whiff of like Swisher sweets. There's little hints to remind you that this is a Highland whiskey, little bits of dried grass, some wildflower honey. It's just, this is the thing about finishes. They're constantly shifting on you. The finish is coming in and out. And right now, those kind of the malty notes, the grassiness, the honeys, the flowers, those are creeping in. Some orange peel. It's fine. It smells fine. It smells like a sherried malt whiskey. On the palate. One more time. I was with it up until the finish. So it arrives very kind of appley, peary, with a little bit of honey. So slice up some apples and pears, drizzle some honey on there. That's how it arrives. Starts to get kind of grassy on the mid palate, which I'm fine with. This is a whiskey. I want there to be a little bit of graininess, of grassiness in there. But then it gets kind of sort of awkwardly bitter on the finish. There's some overstewed tea, and that's fine, but there's also a little bit of cardboardiness, which is not fine. I mean, it's still not bad, but it's... But the finish is not carrying through on what the arrival promises. Tormore is I'm sorry, not Tormore. Tullibardine is huge. They make like 3 million liters of alcohol a year. So this is like to be like owned by a family in France. That's kind of remarkable. Lots of black pepper, Swisher sweets again, a little chocolate orange. Maybe like one fig in there. I mean, it's I really want to see what water does to this. I'm going to add a few drops. I want to see if water cleans up the finish, because if you can kind of fix the finish a little bit, I mean, it's kind of basic but solid beyond that. So I'm going to add like 5 drops or so. That being said, finishes a lot of the time do not like having water added to them. So this goes sideways very quickly. All right, we're going to move on to distillery number 2. This is Tormore. This is in the Speyside. It's kind of like it's sort of in the boonies. It's a little bit southwest of Dufftown. And I only had like 2 Tormores prior to this. And I remember them being very kind of confectionery and fruity. I never really gave them much more thought before that. But they were formerly part of the Pernod Ricard Empire, I believe. And now, just recently, they were just sold off to Elixir Distillers. Is that? Hold on. Let me check my notes. I made notes. Elixir Distillers. Who is Elixir Distillers? That's ringing a bell. They're the Port of Skeg people. They're the single malts of Scotland people, the black top people. Those guys. They're the guys who bought this massive, 4 million liters of alcohol a year distillery. And I'm really curious to see what they did with. This was just recent. This was like a year or two ago. Did you know? I didn't know. But yeah, let's try some Tormore. So this is an 11-year-old from 2010, bottled by Duncan Taylor. No indication of what kind of cask it was, but it is bottled at 53.8%. So let's see what we got. I mean, if someone tells you Speyside whiskey is boring, hand them a glass of... they could still stick their nose into this and think Speyside is boring because there's not enough peat. There's no... But, like, this is... They would be wrong. They would be wrong. This is a little bit bonkers. It's hugely candied. It's very fruity. It's very estery. Gummy bears. Jolly Ranchers. So those are the apple ones, right? Apple candy. Bubblegum. Like Werther's Originals. Caramel toffee. But underneath that, there's some kind of like more earthy notes. There's some Colombian coffee beans. English breakfast tea, again. White pepper. This is kind of great. Vanilla, Honey Nut Cheerios. Pay a little bit more attention to this, and it is kind of lightly grassy, herbaceous, slightly citrusy. There's a little bit of an Earl Grey note, a little bit of like a chalk dust thing. So someone took some erasers and did that. I mean, it's very complex. It's weird. It's really weird. Like if your comfort zone is like Islay, the islands, sherry bombs, this is going to be way out there for you. But yeah, there's a lot going on, actually. All right, on the palate. This is a little bit of a stunner. This was also on the same closeout rack as this, actually. And I meant to buy more of this. That's a lot. I mean, it's very fruity, desserty, candied, but it's also a little bit earthy. It's a lot. So imagine taking some tea, a nice cup of like stewed black tea, except you've like stewed it way too long, and you've stewed it with like honey and gummy bears and like, those little orange slice candies. Throw some of those in the pot for the boil. Some like vanilla in there, Bazooka Joe bubblegum. The thing you got in the vending machine where you put the whole thing in your mouth and you felt terrible about it afterwards. Candied apples, those coffee beans I mentioned before, that's in there. All of that is going into your tea and you're drinking it and it's awesome. This is absolutely not the signature you would expect on what you would label a very, very good to great malt whiskey. It's not great, but it's very, very good. This is not the signature you expect, but is it bringing complexity? Yes. Is it bringing, intensity and character and like mouth presence? Oh my God, yes. It's got all of those things. I'm going to pour more of this. It has got dried grass, malted milk balls, caramel, porridge. Super impressive. I mean, this not a distillery I pay a lot of attention to, but this is. I mean, the only thing I can really complain about here is the mouth length feels a little bit short. It's most of what's happening is right at the front of my mouth. There's a little bit kind of creeping back, but that's kind of it. Good mouth presence otherwise, and just there's a lot going on in this. I'm gonna add some water to this one. We'll come back to it, but yeah, I when I grabbed this off the closeout shelf, I was not expecting it to kind of rock my world. It's rocking my world a little bit. 3, 4. Is it going to need 5? Let's see. This is good. Damn. I'm going to stop at 4. All right, moving on. Now, I had a really hard time finding recently bottled Glenturret, but I wanted to taste them out. Now, I have tasted Glenturret on this channel before, and there's actually a fair number of peated offerings out there from Glenturret Distillery. But I really wanted to taste an unpeated version, so I went for this one from the archives. This was distilled in 2001, bottled in 2012. It's a 10-year-old, and this is a Binny's pick actually. So it's a refill sherry hogshead. I'll put all the info down below. Picked by the fine folks at BC Spirits here in Illinois. Glenturret, another Southern Highlands distillery. In my brain, Glenturret has always been and will always be the site of the famous grouse experience. They were owned by the Edrington group for a long, long time, and that was kind of like their tourist destination for people who didn't want to, go all the way up to McAllen. Except very quietly, they were kind of sold off around 2018, 2019 to, I don't know how to pronounce it, but the Lalique group, mainly known for perfume, but they seem to be making a move into spirits. So if you're wondering why the recent official bottlings of Glenturret have had really nice bottles, it's because perfume people are doing the bottle presentations. Anyways, I'm going to taste this old bottling, and we're going to see how it is. 55.1% alcohol. Yeah. On the nose. I mean, it smells like a sherry bomb. I mean, it looks like a sherry bomb, and it smells like a sherry bomb. Prunes, figs, old leather shoes, orange peel, like old man pipe tobacco, like plum flavored cased pipe tobacco, that kind of stuff. Black pepper. Kheer, weirdly enough, so like the South Asian rice dessert with the cardamom and the nuts and the cinnamon and all that. Little marzipan. I mean, if I had a complaint on the nose, it's that it's maybe a little bit anonymous. So Glenturret, during this period had a reputation for making some really weird independent bottlings. I mean, it's not a huge distillery. It's only a couple of 100,000 liters of alcohol per year. Nothing on the scale of these other two. But most of that used to go into the blends, and what went into the independents did not have a great reputation, or rather had a reputation for weirdness. And I'm not getting any weirdness on the nose. This is pretty dang clean. There's little hints of maybe like parsley, a little bit of like freshly picked parsley, maybe a dollop of oatmeal in there. Like the not quick oatmeal. This is the oatmeal that you have to like cook and then have sit in your fridge. So yeah, it's a nice sherry bomber kind of nose. It's a little bit anonymous, but excellent. No complaints so far. On the palate, far more interesting actually. So it's got everything from the nose: the dried fruit, orange peel, tobacco, leather, all that stuff, pepper, cinnamon, cardamom, kyr stuff. But now there's a much more obvious kind of herbal grainy thing going on, which I'm really enjoying. Black bread. This is a Baltic thing. Sourdough rye bread. If you're ever visiting Lithuania, Latvia, even like Eastern Germany, go hunt this stuff down. It's awesome. Black bread, sage, parsley, not grass, like dead flowers, I guess. Something like that. Oatmeal with honey. There's a kind of like minerality thing. It's like a mud with rocks, rocky mud, something like that. There's that little gesture towards maybe like Glengoyne down the road, but it's really its own character. This is a fun little lineup. I'm enjoying this. Really interesting. I don't think it's knocking the Tormore off on my favorites list for this flight, but yeah, that's a very good sherry malt and very, very. It's weird, but it's weird in a way that works with the character of the cask. Put it that way. So I'm gonna add some water to this. This is probably gonna take 5, 3, 4. Let's do 4.5. I'm going to stick with 4.5. Play it safe. And we shall go back through. Thanks for watching this, by the way. Thanks for like supporting me and stuff. I keep like looking at the list of Patreon supporters and like losing my mind. Like the number of subscribers is impossible. Like I'm just a guy setting up some booze on a table and talking to you in front of my bookshelf. I don't know what's going on. But I hope you're having a good week. I hope you're having as much fun with your spirits collection as I am. And let's go back and try this Tullibardine again. With water, it's the kind of orangey, herbaceous side of this that comes out. I mean, this is cliche, but it now really starts to smell like a Highlander in a way that it didn't before. It smells very kind of, there's a fruity element to this, but it's also very kind of lean and lifted. It's fun. It feels like a lot of the finish is kind of blown off, and what you're left with is just, yeah, a pretty good Highland malt. On the palate. Okay, this is good. This is good. The finish has kind of cleaned itself up a little bit with the addition of water. There's a price to pay. You've lost a little bit of that kind of like figginess, the Swisher sweets. That's kind of all gone. Again, the finish is the finishing. I'm sorry, sherry finish has kind of like just, hit the exit. But I like it better, a little bit better with water. This is okay. This is fine. It's not gonna, you know, it's never gonna be like a highlight of my collection. But if you can get this cheap, if you can get this for 25 bucks, and you just want to have it around as like a house malt, I think this is fine. I'm gonna give this 82 points. I'm into this. This is okay. I will tell the new ownership. I think, like, I don't think the finishes and stuff, the weird cask fun y'all are having is really necessary. Just like put out whatever basic bourbon cask, refill cask, you know, Frankensteiny cask things you just put it out there. 46%. Let it be its kind of oily, grassy, you know, lean, bright self, and see if it gets any fans. You know, keep it simple. 82 points. Back to the Tormore. This was my favorite going to this is my favorite going to the second round. All right, let's go on the nose. This is so weird. It's a ton of fun though. It was fruity and estery before, and still fruity and estery now. There's a little bit of nutmeg coming through. There's a little bit more white pepper, but development on the nose with water is a little bit minimal, which is fine. It's the most fun thing on the table here. Yeah, that's delightful. On the palate. Oh my God. This is phenomenal. Where the hell did this come from? So let me explain. So I was complaining about the mouth length problem, trying this neat. Adding water to this not only fixes that problem, but it just tremendously improves all the mouth presence in general, and it really just accentuates every step that happens in the development, from the kind of very fruity floral arrival to the intensely kind of bitter, grainy, slightly tannic finish. This is a damn good whiskey. Black tea and gummy bears. Sign me up. This is seriously good. And if you happen to see this on the closeout shelf or not on the closeout shelf, I would highly recommend it. 88 points. 88 points for this little Tormore. Hell yeah. All right, let's see if the Glenturret can beat that. So basically what I'm saying is I think if the Elixir Distillers is whatever the name is, if they commit to this and they don't mess it up, they just let it be what it is and put it out there and try to just give it a chance to find an audience, they will have a winner here. If the rest of the stocks, if this is representative of what the rest of the stocks are, because this is fantastic, and very fun and very different. Back to the Glenturret. Oh my God. Just look at how cloudy that is. This... And you never know. You never know which ones, when you add water, are just going to get are going to start to look like swamp water. This one absolutely does, though. All right, Glenturret now with water. I mean, it just smells like fresh black Cavendish tobacco. Yeah, black Cavendish. Plus a lot of orange. A lot of orangey stuff. Orange and tangerine. It's fun. On the palate, also very good. And I feel like in another lineup, this would take it. It really would. But not today. Not with this thing in the middle, right, coming right before it. Interesting development. It gets very, very orangey and very tobacco-y, with a lot of kind of fun herbal graininess in the rear of this. It's funny. I mean, my first impression of this was it's a sherry bomb. The cask has just overwhelmed the malt. And now that I've added water to it, and on the palate at least, you know, it's kind of the other way around. It's that kind of funky, herbal, orangey nature of the Glenturret is really, really starting to fight back against and dominate the cask. I like this, but again, it's not winning the flight. 86 points. And yeah, that's the lineup. So what have we got? We have got 82 points for the Tullibardine 500 sherry cask finish. If you can get it cheap, like, this is probably kind of worth it. I do hate how tall this bottle is. It does not need to be this tall. Come on, who are you kidding? 88 points for the Tullibardine here from Duncan Taylor. This is something else. This is excellent. And I know you can't get this anymore, but maybe take it as a case in point for how sherried Glenturret behaves. Sherried unpeated Glenturret. 86. And that's the video. Hope y'all are doing great, ready for the weekend. Thanks for watching, and cheers.